The alien world was quiet under two moons. The villages of stone glowed faintly in the night, and the tall mountains stood like dark giants in the distance. The people of this world had many rules, rules that were older than memory, rules that no one dared to break. The most important of them all was this: no alien must ever love a human. The Council of Elders had declared it centuries ago. They believed humans were dangerous, weak in body but strong in mind, clever enough to twist the hearts of others. To the aliens, humans were strangers who could never be trusted. And so love between human and alien was not only forbidden, it was treated as the worst kind of betrayal. But in a small hidden garden, far away from the eyes of the elders, one alien girl dared to break that rule. She was young, with eyes full of wonder and a heart that did not fear the old laws. Her name was whispered among her people, but to the human she loved, she was simply light, for her smile was brighter than the moons above. He was a traveler, a human who had come to this alien land seeking peace. He was not a soldier, not a leader, just an ordinary man. But to her he was different from anyone she had ever known. He listened when she spoke. He cared when she was afraid. He saw her not as an alien, not as a stranger, but simply as someone worth loving. Night after night they met in secret. They spoke of dreams. They spoke of the stars. They shared stories of their people, their past, their hopes for the future. The human promised her that love was not a crime, not in his eyes. And she promised him that no matter what her people believed, her heart would never betray him. But secrets do not remain hidden forever. Whispers began in the village. Some said they saw the alien girl wandering at night. Others claimed they saw her speaking to a shadow near the trees. The elders grew suspicious. They watched. They listened. They followed the trails. One night, when the moons were full, the secret was revealed. The elders saw her with the human, her hand resting gently in his. They did not see love. They saw treason. They saw betrayal of the highest order. The news spread like fire. The village buzzed with anger and fear. Mothers pulled their children close, whispering that the human would corrupt them too. Fathers clenched their fists, demanding punishment. The council called an emergency gathering. The alien girl was brought before them, her wrists bound with silver cords. The human was forced back, surrounded by guards who pointed spears at his chest. He shouted that she had done no wrong, that love was not a crime. But his words fell like stones into water, sinking and ignored. The council's voice was cold. She has broken the oldest law. She has chosen a human over her own people. For this she must be punished, and her punishment must be seen by all. The alien girl did not cry. She stood tall, even as fear filled her heart. She looked once at the human, her eyes telling him what her lips could not say. "Do not give up on me." The sentence was decided. At dawn, she would be tied to the high pole in the village square. She would hang there as a warning, her body raised for all to see. Her crime would be remembered, and no one would dare repeat it. The crowd cheered the decision, but not all of them believed it was right. Some looked at the human, his face pale with fury and grief, and wondered if the council had gone too far. But no one dared speak. Fear kept their mouths shut. That night the human sat in silence outside the council walls. His fists trembled, his heart burned. He replayed her last look again and again in his mind. She had trusted him. She had loved him. And now, because of that love, she would die. But deep within him, a voice began to whisper. A voice stronger than fear, louder than doubt. A voice that told him he could not let her end like this. He was only one man, but sometimes one man is enough. As the stars faded and the first light of dawn touched the mountains, the village prepared for the punishment. The pole was raised in the square, tall and merciless. The crowd gathered, waiting to see the traitor displayed. The drums beat slowly, each strike echoing like the sound of doom. The alien girl was brought forward, her steps heavy, her eyes still calm. She did not look at the crowd. She looked only at the sky, at the moons fading into the morning sun. And in the shadows of the crowd the human stood, his eyes locked on her. His heart was torn between fear and courage. He was only one man against an entire world, but he knew one truth above all. He could not let her die. The morning sun rose slowly over the alien village, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. The air was heavy, filled with silence broken only by the sound of drums. Each beat carried through the streets, calling the people to gather. Today was not an ordinary day. Today they would witness punishment, a warning to all who dared to disobey the oldest law. In the center of the square stood the pole. It was tall, rough, and cruel, rising above the crowd like a symbol of fear. The people gathered around it, their voices low, their eyes sharp. Parents pulled their children close, whispering lessons about loyalty, about obedience. The children stared wide-eyed, unsure if they were about to see justice or something darker. The alien girl walked slowly between guards. Her hands were tied, but her head was high. Her face showed no tears, no weakness, only quiet strength. To her people, she was a traitor. To the human watching in the crowd, she was still the girl who had chosen love, even when she knew it could cost her everything. The human's heart pounded as he pushed through the crowd. He wanted to scream, to fight, to break her chains right there, but he was only one man, and the guards carried long spears. The elders stood at the front, their robes flowing like shadows, their voices cold as stone. The leader of the council raised his hand. The drum stopped. Silence fell across the square. His voice rang out, harsh and final. This girl has broken our law. She has given her heart to a human. She has betrayed her people. For this crime she will hang upon the pole so all may see what happens when one turns against their own. The crowd stirred. Some shouted approval, others muttered doubt. But none dared stand against the council. Fear was stronger than mercy here. The human clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. He wanted to shout that love was not a crime. He wanted to cry that she had harmed no one. But his voice would be drowned, and worse, it would only bring more punishment. He bit his tongue and stayed silent, but inside a storm raged. The guards led the girl to the pole. They tied her wrists high, raising her above the crowd. Her feet barely touched the ground. She winced, but she did not cry out. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and for a brief moment they found his. The human's chest tightened. Her look was not of fear. It was trust. A silent promise, I believe in you. The leader of the council spoke again. Let her punishment be seen by all. Let no one forget. This is the price of treason. The drums began once more, slow and heavy. The crowd's voices rose in chants, harsh and cruel. The children clung tighter to their parents. Some villagers looked away, unable to meet the girl's eyes. The human could not look away. His blood boiled. He wanted to rush forward, to tear the ropes apart, to carry her away from this nightmare. But reason whispered in his mind. If he moved now, he would die before reaching her. He needed a plan, and he needed it fast. As the chants grew louder, he slipped back into the shadows of the crowd. His eyes darted, searching for weakness. The guards were strong, but they were few. The crowd was distracted, focused on the girl. The elders were proud, but pride often blinded. He studied every detail, every gap, every chance. Meanwhile, the girl stood tall on the pole. She did not shout, she did not beg. Instead, she closed her eyes. Memories filled her mind. The nights under the stars with him, the way he listened when no one else did, the warmth of his hand holding hers. She knew she might not see another sunset, but she also knew love was worth the risk. The council watched with satisfaction. To them, this was victory. To them, this was control. But in their pride, they did not see the fire burning in the human's eyes. They did not notice him slipping into the shadows, moving toward a decision that would shake their world. The chants grew louder. The drums beat harder. The girl's body hung heavy against the ropes, yet her spirit stood unbroken. The human took one final look at her, his jaw set, his mind clear. He could not wait for heroes to appear. He could not pray for mercy from the council. He could not let the girl who had loved him be remembered only as a warning. No. If no one else would stand against this cruelty, he would. One man against an entire world. One heart against the weight of tradition. He slipped away as the crowd roared, his mind racing, his hands shaking. He knew what he must do. Tonight, under the cover of darkness, he would act. And when he did, the world would never be the same. The morning sky was pale, painted with faint silver clouds drifting above the alien village. The drums had not stopped since the night before. Slow, steady, and heavy, their sound filled every home, every street, every heart. Today was the day the sentence would be carried out. The pole stood tall in the village square, wrapped in thick ropes ready to hold the condemned. Around it, the crowd grew larger with every passing hour. Elders in long robes stood at the front. Guards with sharp spears lined the sides, and villagers crowded behind, whispering about the punishment they were about to see. The alien girl was led into the square, her wrists still bound, her steps unsteady but her head held high. She was not broken. Her face was calm, almost too calm for someone who was about to be displayed as a warning. Some in the crowd whispered that she was unafraid. Others called her foolish. The human watched from the edges, his heart pounding like the drums. His fists were tight, his body trembling. He wanted to run to her, to pull her down, to fight them all. But he forced himself to wait. He knew the guards would kill him instantly if he moved too soon. He needed the right moment. The leader of the council raised his hand. Silence fell. Even the drums stopped. His voice echoed across the square. Today we remember the oldest law. Today we show what happens when one betrays their people. This girl chose a human over her own kind. She turned her heart against us. And so she shall be raised on the pole as a lesson none will forget. The crowd cheered. Some threw stones at her feet. Some spat on the ground as she passed. Yet through it all she kept her eyes forward. She did not cry. She did not beg. She was stronger than they expected. 2 guards dragged her to the pole. The ropes creaked as they tightened them around her wrists and lifted her arms high above her head. Her feet barely touched the ground. The pole groaned as her weight leaned against it, but it held firm. The villagers gasped. Children buried their faces into their mothers' robes. Men shouted curses, demanding she confess her guilt. Women whispered that her shame would spread if not stopped. The human felt his blood boil. To him, she was not guilty of anything. She was guilty only of love. Love that had harmed no one, love that had brought nothing but light. Yet here she was, displayed like a criminal. The leader of the council raised his staff. Let her hang until her spirit is gone. Let her body stand as a warning to all. This is the price of treason. The drums thundered again. The chants rose, cruel and loud. Traitor! Traitor! The human could no longer watch in silence. He moved through the crowd, his eyes fixed on her. She met his gaze, and for a moment the noise of the square faded. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a fragile, silent message. I am not afraid. That smile broke something inside him. He knew he could not wait any longer. His plan was not ready. His strength was not enough. But his heart told him one thing. If he did nothing, she would die, and he would carry the weight of her death forever. He clenched his jaw. He stepped forward. His voice cut through the noise. Stop! The crowd froze. Hundreds of alien eyes turned toward him. The chants fell silent. Even the drums ceased their thunder. Only his voice remained, loud and clear. She is no traitor. She is no criminal. She is guilty of nothing but love. And if you call love a crime, then I too am guilty. Gasps echoed. The council members exchanged furious glances. The guards tightened their grip on their spears. The crowd whispered in shock. A human daring to speak against the elders? It was unthinkable. The leader of the council's voice was like ice. Silence, human. You have no right to speak here. But the human did not step back. His heart beat like fire. He raised his voice again. If you kill her, then you kill the truth. If you punish her, then you show the universe your fear. And know this, I will not let her die alone. The crowd erupted in shouts. Some laughed, mocking him. Some cursed, demanding his death too. But a few, just a few, stayed quiet, their eyes wide, as if a seed of doubt had been planted in their hearts. The guards began to move toward him, their spears aimed at his chest. But he did not flinch. His eyes stayed locked on the girl, her body weak on the pole but her spirit unbroken. And then with a sudden burst of courage, he took his first step forward. The council leader slammed his staff against the ground, shouting, "Seize him!" The square exploded into chaos. Guards rushed forward, the crowd screamed, the drums pounded louder than ever. But in the middle of it all, one human walked toward the pole, his heart stronger than fear, his resolve sharper than any blade. He had made his choice. He would not let her die. The square shook with noise. The council shouted orders. The guards moved quickly with spears in hand, and the villagers cried out in shock and fear. But in the middle of that chaos, one human walked forward with steady steps, his eyes fixed on the alien girl bound high to the pole. The guards closed in, their armor clinked, their boots pounded the dirt, their faces filled with cold determination. To them, the human was not brave. He was foolish, daring to stand against their oldest law. The human's heart raced, but his face showed no fear. Each step he took was heavy, yet full of fire. He was only one man, but inside, he carried a storm. The alien girl looked down at him, Her arms stretched painfully above her head, her body weak, but her spirit still shining. Her lips trembled not from fear but from something deeper, hope. For the first time since her punishment began, she believed she might not die alone. The first guard blocked his path, raising a spear to his chest. "Stop here, human. Leave or you will join her." The human's eyes did not waver. His voice was calm but fierce. "If she dies, then I will join her anyway. But not as your prisoner, as her defender," the crowd gasped. Some laughed cruelly, calling him mad. Others muttered under their breath, unsettled by his courage. A few lowered their eyes, ashamed of their silence. The council leader stepped forward, his staff striking the ground. "Seize him!" 2 guards lunged, but the human ducked low, his movements sharp with desperation. He grabbed a loose stone from the ground and swung it with all his strength. The crack echoed as it struck one guard's helmet, sending him stumbling back. The second guard thrust his spear, but the human twisted aside, the blade cutting only air. The crowd erupted. Some screamed for his death, others cheered his defiance. The air itself seemed to tremble. The alien girl's heart raced as she watched. She wanted to cry out, to beg him to run, to save himself, but her voice was caught in her throat. She knew this was not only about her anymore. This was about something greater, about showing the entire village that love was stronger than fear. The guards regrouped, circling the human like wolves. He breathed hard, sweat dripping from his brow, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. He had no sword, no shield, no armor. He had only his will, and that will was unbreakable. The council leader's face twisted with rage. "You are a fool, human. One against many. Do you think you can change the law with your defiance?" The human's voice rang out clear and powerful. "Laws can be broken, but love cannot. You fear love because it is stronger than your chains, stronger than your rules, stronger than your power. And that is why I will fight you." His words struck the crowd like lightning. For a moment the chants fell silent. For a moment doubt spread like cracks in stone. Parents looked at their children and wondered what kind of lesson they were truly teaching. Youths glanced at each other, questioning the cruelty they had been told was justice. The guards rushed again. Spears thrust, blades swung. The human dodged, rolled, and fought with bare hands and fury. He was struck across the back, pain flashing through him, but he did not fall. He staggered, then stood taller, as if every wound only fueled his resolve. The alien girl's voice finally broke free. Weak but steady, she cried out, "Do not give up." Her words cut through the chaos. The human's heart roared in his chest. He fought harder, his movements faster, his spirit unshaken. Each strike he endured only proved one thing: he would not stop. The villagers began to murmur. Some called for his death, but others whispered words of awe. Never before had they seen such courage. Never before had they seen a human stand against an entire world for love. The council leader raised his staff again, his voice thunderous with fury. "Enough, kill him!" The guards prepared to strike together, their spears aimed at his heart. The human braced himself, ready to meet death if it meant standing by her side. His eyes lifted to hers once more, and in that moment nothing else mattered. The alien girl whispered, though only he could see her lips move, "I believe in you." And something inside him changed. The fear melted away. The pain faded. All that remained was resolve. He roared, louder than the drums, louder than the crowd, louder than the council itself. With a burst of strength he lunged forward, knocking one spear aside and driving his shoulder into the guard's chest. The impact sent both crashing to the ground. The human rolled away, snatching the fallen spear from the dirt. For the first time he was armed. The crowd gasped. The guards froze for a heartbeat, startled by his sudden fury. And in that heartbeat something shifted. The villagers who had doubted before now began to cheer. Quiet at first, then louder. A few voices turned into dozens, dozens into hundreds. "Let him fight! Let him fight!" The council leader's face turned pale. Control was slipping. The law was being questioned. And all because of one human who refused to bow. The human stood tall, the spear gripped in his hands, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His eyes burned with fire. He was ready to face them all if he had to. And deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. The square had never seen such chaos. The chants of "traitor" had changed into shouts, arguments, and cries. Some still demanded blood, but others now whispered of courage, of truth, of justice. The human stood in the center, breathing heavily, a stolen spear gripped tight in his hands. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his eyes burned with fire. The alien girl hung weakly from the pole, her wrists tied high, her body trembling. Yet when she looked at him, she did not see defeat. She saw hope. She saw a human who would fight the entire world if it meant saving her. The guards regrouped, forming a circle around him. Their leader barked orders, his voice sharp like steel. End this now. Strike him down. The human shifted his stance, the spear steady in his grip. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He could not win against all of them. He knew that. But winning was not the point. Defiance was. Showing them that love was worth fighting for was. The first guard charged, spear thrusting forward. The human twisted to the side, sweeping his weapon low. The alien stumbled, crashing into the dirt. The crowd gasped. The human raised his spear again, but instead of killing the guard, he tossed him aside and shouted, "I fight not to destroy you, but to save her." For a moment, silence rippled through the crowd. His words carried farther than any weapon. Some villagers lowered their eyes, torn between law and conscience. But the council leader snarled, his staff raised high. "Do not listen to him. He is human. His words are poison." Another pair of guards attacked together. Their spears moved fast, one high, one low. The human blocked the first with a clang, spun and kicked the second aside. Pain shot through his leg, but he stayed on his feet. Every movement was desperate, every breath a struggle, but he refused to fall. The alien girl's voice broke through the noise, weak but steady. "Do not stop, please." Her plea fueled him. His muscles screamed, his chest ached, but his spirit only grew stronger. He struck again, his spear clashing with theirs, sparks flying as metal met metal. The villagers were no longer silent. Some shouted for the guards, but others began cheering him on. "Stand, human, stand." The council leader's face twisted in anger. This was no longer just punishment. This was rebellion, and it was spreading like fire. The human knew the crowd was shifting. He could feel it. Every time he stood back up, every time he refused to fall, more eyes turned in his favor. His fight was no longer only his. It was becoming a symbol. With a roar, he broke through the circle of guards, rushing toward the pole. The girl's eyes widened as he drew close. Hope lit her face, even as tears slipped down her cheeks. But before he could reach her, 3 guards blocked his path. Their spears crossed, forming a wall of steel. He skidded to a stop, his chest heaving. For a moment he was trapped. The council leader stepped forward, his voice booming. "You cannot win, human. Lay down your weapon and we may show mercy." The human's grip tightened. His voice was raw but fierce. "Mercy? You call this mercy? You call tying her to a pole, punishing her for love, justice? No, I will never surrender to cruelty," the crowd roared. Some shouted in rage at his words, but others, many others, shouted in agreement. The council leader's face grew pale as he realized control was slipping further. The human lunged again, his spear flashing. He struck one guard's weapon aside, spun, and knocked another to the ground. The third pressed hard, their blades locked together, faces inches apart. The human's muscles burned, his arms shaking, but with a final surge of strength he shoved the alien back. He stumbled forward, only a few steps away from the pole now. The alien girl looked down at him, her lips trembling with words she could barely speak. "I knew. You would come." Before he could reach her ropes, a shout rang out. "Enough!" The council leader slammed his staff into the ground. From the far side of the square, more guards poured in. Stronger, heavier, carrying weapons that gleamed in the sunlight. The villagers gasped, stepping back in fear. The human froze. His chest heaved, his body aching. He had fought with everything he had, but now the square swarmed with soldiers. His odds, already slim, had become impossible, but his eyes did not waver. He lifted his spear once more, standing tall, facing the new wave of enemies. His voice carried across the square. "You may break my body, but you will never break my spirit. If one man can stand against your cruelty, then others will too. Today you may kill me, but tomorrow the world will remember I fought for love." The villagers erupted. Cheers and cries mixed, the square trembling with voices. Some wept, some shouted in anger, but no one could deny what they had seen. One man against many, one man refusing to bow. The guards advanced. The human stood firm. The alien girl's tears fell, not of despair but of pride. She knew no matter what happened next, his defiance had changed everything. The square had become a storm. Voices clashed like thunder. The council shouted orders, the guards tightened their circle, and the villagers screamed, half in fear and half in awe. At the center of it all, the human stood with his stolen spear bruised and bleeding but unbroken. The alien girl hung high on the pole, her arms tied, her body weak. Yet her eyes never left him. Even in her pain, she drew strength from his defiance. She whispered under her breath, though no one could hear, "Please, don't fall." The council leader's voice boomed above the chaos. "Seize him! End this rebellion before it spreads!" Dozens of guards rushed forward at once. Their boots shook the ground, their spears flashing like silver teeth in the sun. The human's grip tightened on his weapon. He was only one man, but his heart roared louder than the crowd. The first guard struck, his spear cutting through the air. The human blocked with a sharp clang, sparks flying. Another lunged from the side, and the human twisted, swinging his spear in a wide arc. The weapon clashed against armor, knocking the attacker back, but more kept coming. A blade slashed across his arm, burning pain tearing through him. He stumbled but did not fall. He spun, striking again, his face twisted in determination. The villagers gasped at his endurance. He was outnumbered, outmatched, but he refused to bow. "Stand, human. Stand!" A voice shouted from the crowd. Others joined. At first only a few, then more, until the chants grew louder. "Stand, stand!" The council leader's face turned pale with rage. His control was slipping. The people were no longer united in fear. They were questioning, doubting, daring to believe in something else, than in him. The guards pressed harder. Two struck together, one high, one low. The human blocked the first, but the second slashed his leg. He cried out, stumbling to one knee. Gasps echoed across the square. The alien girl's heart stopped. Her voice cracked as she cried, "No!" The guards closed in, ready to finish him. The council leader raised his staff high, shouting, "Strike him down!" But then it happened. A stone flew from the crowd, striking a guard's helmet. Another followed, then another. The villagers who had once stood silent were moving now, their anger turning against their own rulers. A young man shouted, "Enough of this cruelty!" An older woman cried, "Let them go!" The guards faltered, glancing nervously at the growing unrest. The human used that moment. With a roar, he rose to his feet, driving his spear into the dirt to push himself higher. He swung wide, forcing the closest guards back. The villagers' voices grew louder, breaking the fear that had chained them for so long. "Let her go. Let them live." The council leader's face twisted in fury. "Silence," he roared, slamming his staff into the ground, but the noise only grew. The people were no longer afraid. The human staggered toward the pole, blood dripping from his wounds, his body shaking with exhaustion. But every step was filled with fire. He looked up at her, his voice hoarse but strong. "I will not stop. Not until you are free." Her eyes filled with tears. "I believe you." He reached the pole, grabbing the ropes with trembling hands. The guards rushed again, but the villagers blocked them, forming a wall with their own bodies. Mothers, fathers, youths. They stood shoulder to shoulder, defying the council's orders. The human tore at the ropes, his fingers raw, the fibers cutting his skin. The knots were tight, cruelly bound, but he pulled with all his strength. His teeth clenched, his arms shaking, until finally one rope snapped. The girl gasped as her arm fell free. Hope surged in her chest. The council leader screamed, his voice shrill. "Stop him! Kill them both!" The guards tried, but the villagers fought back. They had no weapons, but their rage was stronger than fear. Stones flew, fists swung, voices roared. The square had become a battlefield, not of armies, but of people against their own rulers. The human pulled again, tearing the second rope loose. The girl collapsed into his arms, weak but alive. He held her close, his heart pounding. For the first time since this nightmare began, she was free. The crowd erupted in cheers. Tears fell. Voices rose, and hope spread like fire through dry grass. But the council leader was not finished. His eyes burned with hatred as he raised his staff high. "This is not the end. You cannot fight the law. You cannot fight me." The ground seemed to shake with his fury. The guards regrouped, ready to strike once more. The human tightened his hold on the girl, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He turned to face them, his voice carrying over the chaos. "Then I will fight you all. Not for myself, but for her, for love, for every voice you silenced with fear. Today you will learn that one human is enough." The villagers roared in agreement. The council leader's face twisted in rage as he realized the truth. His power was slipping, his control was breaking, and the human's defiance had planted a seed that would grow far beyond this square. The struggle was not over. In fact, it had only begun. The square was alive with fire. Not real flames, but the fire of voices, the fire of hearts breaking free from fear. The villagers shouted, some fighting the guards, some shielding the human and the alien girl. The drums had stopped. The chance of traitor were gone. Now the air carried a new cry. Let them live. The human held the girl close. Her body was weak, her breath shallow, but her eyes still glowed with trust. She whispered, "You came for me." He nodded, though his chest burned with pain. His clothes were torn, blood ran down his arms, but his resolve was stronger than ever. "I will never leave you." The council leader stood at the edge of the square, his staff raised high. His voice shook with fury. "You think you have won? One human, one foolish girl, and a crowd of weak villagers? The law is older than all of you. The law cannot be broken." But the people shouted back, their voices shaking the ground. "The law is not stronger than love." The human's heart surged at their words. For the first time, he realized he was not alone. His defiance had lit something inside them, something the council could not kill. The guards charged again, but the villagers blocked them, pushing back with stones, sticks, and bare hands. It was chaos, but it was courage too. The council's control was slipping away. The human turned to the girl. "We have one chance. We must leave now." Her voice was soft. "But where can we go?" "Anywhere," he said. "Anywhere but here. As long as we are together, we will find a way." With effort, he lifted her into his arms. His muscles screamed, his wounds ached, but he refused to falter. Step by step, he began to move through the crowd. Villagers parted, creating a path. Some reached out, touching his shoulder, whispering, "Go, go." The council leader roared, "Stop them! Do not let them leave alive." The guards tried, but the people resisted harder now, pushing them back, refusing to bow. The square was no longer the council's. It belonged to the voices that had been silent too long. The human staggered toward the edge of the village. His vision blurred, but his will pulled him forward. The girl clung to him weakly, her head resting against his shoulder. "I thought I would die there," she whispered. "Not while I breathe," he answered. They reached the outer path, where the forest stretched wide and dark beyond the mountains. Freedom was close, but danger was closer still. The guards broke through the villagers at last, their weapons flashing, their eyes burning with rage. The human turned, his body shielding the girl. He raised the stolen spear once more, though his strength was nearly gone. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me," the villagers shouted behind him. Some ran forward, placing themselves between the couple and the guards. "Enough, no more blood!" The council leader's face turned pale. He slammed his staff down, but the sound no longer carried weight. His words no longer controlled them. The people had chosen. One guard hesitated, lowering his spear. Another followed. One by one, their stances weakened, their loyalty shaken. They looked at the human, at the girl, at the crowd behind them, and doubt spread like cracks in stone. The council leader screamed, "Cowards, obey me." But his voice was drowned by the roar of the villagers. "Let them go. Let them live." The human stepped back slowly, his eyes never leaving the guards. The villagers surrounded him, forming a shield of bodies. Together, they moved toward the forest, carrying him and the girl away from the square, away from the council, away from death. At the edge of the trees, the human paused. He looked back once more. The council leader stood alone, his staff trembling, his power crumbling. The guards no longer obeyed him. The people no longer feared him. The human's voice carried across the square. "You tried to kill love, but love does not die. Love lives in every heart you tried to silence. And now your rule is broken." The crowd roared with thunderous voices. Some wept, some cheered, but all knew they had witnessed the beginning of change. The human turned, carrying the girl into the forest. The villagers' voices followed them, a chorus of hope, a promise that their story would not be forgotten. The girl's eyes closed as she whispered against his ear, "You saved me." He smiled, though his body was weak. "No, we saved each other." The forest swallowed them, the shadows hiding their path. They did not know what dangers lay ahead, what struggles would come next. But they knew one truth, simple and unshakable. They had defied an entire world, and they had won.